Top 10 poorest countries in the world in 2022. Many believe money is the key to making the world go around. Despite it being cliché, this notion doesn't seem too absurd after all. The most powerful people are generally the richest, and the richest people tend to be some of the world's most powerful. No matter what measurement unit they use, many people will define their success by the amount of money they have earned over their lifetimes. Money is the most directly quantifiable measurement of success. With that in mind, here are the top 10 most poor countries in the world. Before we get into the video, don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Number 10. Madagascar. While some nations on the list are making significant progress towards securing an economic stability, unfortunately, Madagascar is not. The standard of living in this island nation has fallen significantly over the past 20 years. Madagascar is home to more than 20 million people. It has a GDP per head of $463, and about 70% of its population lives below the poverty line. Their economic situation is deteriorating due to their dependence on agriculture and the lack of fertile farming land. Number 9. Liberia. The Second Liberian Civil War was a civil war that raged within Liberia from 1999 to 2003. History will tell you that economic damage from wars is not uncommon. This is true even for Liberia. After enduring a 14-year-long political war that not only destroyed lands but also required the use of some of Liberia's finite resources, the civil war left the country economically devastated. It is of no benefit to Liberia that its economy is reliant upon agriculture once more. The country is war-torn, with a GDP per capita of $454.30. In 2010, more than 80% of its population lived on less than $1.25 daily. Liberia is only halfway down the list of poorest countries, due to its low yields and poor infrastructure. Number 8. Malawi. A country with 16 million people and one of the most impoverished African countries doesn't make it easy to accumulate wealth or distribute it. Malawi is the least developed country in the world. Access to education, healthcare, and infrastructure are all restricted or substandard. The nation is not able to grow in general, so they are relegated to trying to drive their economy with the most primitive forms of agriculture. It doesn't look like Malawi's $226.50 per capita GDP will rise much soon, given its vulnerability to weather changes and the high number of deaths and injuries caused by poor healthcare. Number 7. Niger. Niger is not only one of the poorest countries in the world, but it is also one of the most underdeveloped countries across many categories. While it is making progress in reducing infant mortality and improving education, Niger's development category of poverty remains rather stagnant. This has kept the nation's GDP per capita at $415.40. Niger's economy is driven primarily by two forces: the mining of precious natural resources within the country, including oil, gold, and uranium, and small-scale farming. Both of these economic resources can be easily destroyed by weather and climate changes. So Niger has had a difficult time developing economically. Number 6. Mozambique. Mozambique is home to a lot of agricultural land and plenty of water. Mozambique has plenty of arable land and water. It also has ample energy and mineral resources. It is one of the poorest nations in the world. The majority of its population lives below the poverty line. There are many reasons this is the case, including corruption, extreme climate conditions, and political instability. A French company raised nearly $16 billion to finance a natural gas facility in the region in 2020. Many had hoped the project would be a sign of a new beginning in the former Portuguese colony. However, the project was eventually halted indefinitely due to violent attacks in the area. Number 5. The Democratic Republic of the Congo. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, Africa's second largest nation, is directly in contrast to the previous entry. It has a staggering population of approximately 77 million. However, a large population can be a problem, especially in poorer countries, because it means that there is less money available. This is even more surprising because the Democratic Republic of the Congo actually has a lot of valuable natural resources. The land covers 2.35 million square kilometers, with a lot of it being forests. However, it also has a large area of farmable lands. Despite all these facts, the Democratic Republic of the Congo has suffered from a corrupt and unstable political system, which has severely limited the country's potential wealth. With the GDP per capita at $484.20, many people in the country are still unemployed. The results in them living in very poor living conditions. Number 4. The Central African Republic. The Central African Republic, like Liberia in the past, has been the victim of war and significant political instability. This landlocked nation in Central Africa supports very, very poor infrastructure, which limits the effectiveness of the country's resource distribution. This nation shares many similarities with other African countries, in that it is dominated by agriculture. However, 45% of its export revenues come from diamonds. Because of poor governance and infrastructure, less than 4% of actual arable land is actually being used. The industry's majority suffers greatly, resulting in a nation with a GDP per capita that is $333.20. Number 3. Somalia. Somalia is one of the poorest countries in the world due to decades of droughts, floods, and high levels of unemployment, particularly among young people. According to UNDP statistics, Somalia has a poverty rate of 73%. Their GDP was expected to increase by more than 3% in 2020. However, it was eventually halted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The World Bank still believes that Somalia could have a brighter tomorrow. One thing is that the Somali government has committed to charting a path towards greater growth and resilience. Number 2. South Sudan. South Sudan is the youngest nation in the world. They were once part of Sudan, but split to create a new nation in 2011. 2 years later, however, a conflict broke out when the president accused his former deputy of staging a coup. Nearly 400,000 people were then killed as a result. It is interesting to note that the country ranks third in sub-Saharan Africa's oil reserves. However, rising security-related costs have continued to ravage the economy. The landlocked state has been ravaged by violence. It often stops farmers from planting or harvesting crops. Number 1. Burundi. Burundi is the second poorest country in the world after its history of violence and political conflicts. However, the country is still working hard to rebuild itself. Burundi's agricultural growth was also affected by the 300,000 civilian deaths that resulted in a 67% poverty rate. The nation still has very little agricultural land. Any land that could be used for small-scale agriculture is vulnerable to changing climates and weather conditions. Burundi is the poorest country in the world, with a rapidly growing population, rising food prices, and a GDP per head of $267.10.